Voted one of the top 100 jazz clubs in the world, Shanghai Jazz in Madison, New Jersey has been entertaining its customers for almost 30 years with world-class live music, great food, and a commitment to hospitality that creates an exceptional atmosphere. Plus, if you're in the mood for a creative cocktail and incredible vibe, be sure to check out Encore Speakeasy, located downstairs in Shanghai Jazz. As one of my favorite restaurants in the area, I personally guarantee you will have a great experience. Check out the music schedule, the menu, or to make a reservation, head to shanghaijazz.com. Murphy, Schiller & Wilkes is formed with a simple purpose in mind, serving as a one-stop shop for the legal needs of developers, lenders, and others in the commercial real estate industry. Based in Newark, the firm's attorneys represent clients in the most complex real estate transactions and land development proceedings, as well as property taxation, environmental and real estate litigation matters, and in the acquisition, sale, and leasing of all real estate asset types throughout the country. Their attorneys have broad private and public sector experience coming from top national law firms and high-level governmental positions. Through the development of individualized client-focused strategies, their team works tirelessly to create a blueprint for success and advance their clients' interests in every matter. To learn more, head to murphyllp.com or give them a call at 973-877-6984.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm your host, Mike, and we are here with Jamie Knott. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, Mike. Thank you.
Pleasure to be in your home. This is cool. We normally don't do, like, home episodes, but it's like you got a cool space down here, so, like, why not use it?
It worked out, man.
Yeah.
It just got finished. It looks pretty clean. My wife was the GC on the project, basically, so
yeah.
Nice job, Krista.
Yeah, for sure. And if I remember correctly, like, you're a Nutley guy. Like, you, like, grew up here, right?
Some would say I'm a Nutley guy.
Nutley guy.
I actually was born in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
At Johns Hopkins Hospital. And I moved to Nutley when I was 8 years old, just before third grade started. The summer of second grade, I moved up to Nutley. And funny little story is that my stepfather was a bartender at my mom's bar in Baltimore. And those two fell in love because my mom's such a lovable human being that my stepfather proposed to her when he graduated dental school, and we moved up to Nutley because his dad had a practice in Belleville on Washington Ave for 35 years.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
Family business brought us up here.
Yeah, for sure. So if people don't know who you are, I feel like they're going to get a pretty good idea over the course of this episode. But can we just, like, give them, like you own 4 restaurants in New Jersey.
Correct.
So what are they? And then we'll kind of go through, like, your background and how you got there.
Sure. Got it. So my first baby girl is the Saddle River Inn, fine dining French restaurant, Saddle River. My second restaurant I opened with my partner, Robert Palmer, is Cellar 335 in Jersey City. Then we went back up to Saddle River and opened the Saddle River Cafe. And then we just opened Madam in Jersey City, which is actually connected to Cellar 335.
Right.
So that's the fourth. And in the next 60 to 90 days, we're going to open Kinjo in Newark at 155 Washington Street, which is going to be a Japanese dumpling ramen bao house.
Yeah.
It's kind of right next to Rutgers. So we're hoping it does pretty well.
Yeah.
And inside the campus.
Right. Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
hopefully
that gets, like, some good foot traffic and stuff for sure.
I think it will.
Yeah.
So we're kind of looking at end of summer opening.
Yeah.
As the kids are coming back.
Perfect.
So we'll open probably 2 weeks before they come back for the semester.
Yeah. Just
to get our feet wet and, learn what we don't know, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you got a lot going on, like 4 spots with a 5th on the way. That's a lot of stuff to juggle.
Yeah, I get a lot of text messages. Yeah, there's no doubt about that, man.
Yeah.
I'm on the phone a good 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
I just can't avoid it. So,
right.
I was just, I just wanted to cook food.
Yeah.
And this is where we are now in 2023.
Exactly. So, like, I mean, do you ever, like, because you're running so many places now, do you really get a chance to cook a lot of food still?
It's funny you should ask, because this Saturday I will be at the Saddle River Inn working the fish station.
Okay.
Because, people have weddings and things like that.
Yeah.
They call chef and chef says yes because he loves to cook. So,
right.
I get to do what I love once in a while.
That's cool.
It's not often, but, I'll go in and play proxy this weekend.
Right.
Pretend like I belong there.
Exactly.
And nobody will even know the difference.
Yeah. Like, who is this guy? So was food always something that was like a big part of your life growing up? Like, to get to where you are today?
Think so, but I'm not sure about that. And what I mean is like, when I was a kid, my grandmother was always cooking 3-4 pots on the stove.
Yeah.
Super famous for her crab soup and best turkey in the world, and loved to make fried chicken. And I didn't know I loved food until I knew I loved food, you know? And my cousins were always there, and she would make lunch and dinner and breakfast. It was the focal point.
Sure.
We spent all our time in the kitchen when we weren't outside breaking windows and getting into fights.
Yeah.
Which was, the better half of every day of my life, my childhood. So, I have my grandmother to blame, I guess, technically for that. My mom, she worked 2 jobs when I was a kid, so to put us through private school, and that was, admirable. And she wasn't home that often, so it was Mama's house.
Yeah.
And her fried chicken is like probably the best on the planet that I've ever had.
Sure.
And her crab cakes are like just dumb. Like, we would get crabs every other Sunday in the summer, and she would pick all the extra meat, make crab cakes, fry them in a cast iron pan in lard.
Okay.
The next morning.
It's good.
Dude, she had that big can of Crisco sitting right next to the fucking stove. It was, when I say they're dumb, I mean, they're absurd. They're the best I've ever had. And I'm not just saying that because we're related. In fact, most of the time I would go the complete opposite way, instead of giving credit to anybody.
Yeah, right.
The same last name as me. But big thing of Crisco next to it, cast iron skillet, and we would eat them on saltines with spicy Golden's brown mustard.
Oh, cool.
And that was how they were eating in Baltimore. Like, that was traditional shit. And it was, dude, I can taste it right now. You know what I mean?
Did that continue when you moved up to Jersey?
Her making crab cakes for me unfortunately ended.
Okay.
But, when I go back there, like,
okay,
she's got to hit the greatest hits have to come out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
she stayed in Baltimore.
She stayed, my mom's whole side of the family stayed out there.
Okay.
Nobody came up, but just me, my mom, and my brother.
Yeah.
And my stepfather.
Sure.
Obviously, had to be there. So.
Yeah.
But grandma's like, Mama just, she crushed it, man, when we were kids.
Yeah.
She still does. Like, she would make me breakfast 4 times a week probably, and this is going to disgust most people, but it would be half a dozen eggs with Velveeta cheese scrambled, and I would put ketchup on them, dude. And she would make fucking Grand's biscuits cooked in the cast iron skillet with Crisco.
Yeah.
So when I moved up here at 8 years old, I think my cholesterol was like 338 or some shit. It was, the nurse was like, "You're going to have a fucking heart attack." I was like, I'm 9.
Yeah, right.
Like, what are we talking about here? Like, get your shit together. And I was thin, too.
Yeah.
Because all we did was run.
Yeah, exactly.
Tag and Road Runner and red light, green light and fucking, whatever we could play. But so that's a little bit about Mama.
Yeah. So then, like, at what point do you decide, like, you're going to go down the road of, like, working in kitchens and all that kind of stuff?
I think it was kind of decided for me because I was kind of a fuck up from age birth to like 27. So somewhere in there in high school, I realized like, wow, there's a lot of girls in home ec. So I took home ec and I fell in love with it right away. It was like, you get to work with your hands and you could get stoned in the park and then have 5th period would be home ec. So you could go make cookies and shit, So
what's better than that?
A stoner's dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it was born. I hate to say that, but like, it's just the truth.
Yeah.
And my first job actually was in Nutley at the Franklin Steakhouse.
Okay.
On Franklin Ave. And I was a busboy, and then I was a food runner, and then I was a bar back. And, I fell in love with the excitement, man. Just the energy every day. Like, you got to be there. You got to be on point. You got to be ready to rock. And it was a busy restaurant, and I worked, when I was a kid, I worked Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. And we closed early on Sundays. But like $10 an hour cash plus tips when you're a kid, dude,
you rich.
I always had fresh sneakers and marijuana in my pocket. Like,
what else do you need? Yeah, as a kid?
Yeah. In Nutley, New Jersey, Jamie Knott needed nothing extra in his life. Like, I had arrived. I made it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I never looked back.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was my first or second Sunday. And I went in the walk-in to get lemons for the bar or something. And, the sous chef was like smoking and joining with the waitress. And I was like, I'm going to be a fucking chef when I grow up. Like, this is where daddy belongs.
Yeah.
It was just like, It was perfect.
Right. Yeah. That's really interesting because it's just like I always, cause we have interviewed a bunch of different chefs, and it's like interesting to kind of see like how everyone gets to like where they are today. And like,
Right.
I mean, obviously like the ones we've had on have all been successful in like different ways and done different things. And it just like, to me, it's so interesting because it's like one of those things where it's like something on like the musician side or like all the other people, different types of people that we've had on. It's like how you get from A to B is so interesting to me. And like, this is its own unique story, you know, and like you're doing it like kind of like your way. And obviously like now having success, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think, you know, I fell in love with it at some point, and it was really just the excitement and the cash that kept me there in the beginning, you know, and it was kind of easygoing in that if you were good at your job, everybody kind of left you alone,
right?
You know, and I still bus tables when I go to Madam, I'll expedite, and I'm like, I'm the best busser I know.
Yeah. I
stack plates like nobody's business, and, you know, and I'm quick.
Yeah.
And I'm efficient.
Right.
Now I just offer a second cocktail to the guests. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'm more knowledgeable, and I understand how to make people smile and make people happy. And I think intrinsically, like, that's what really drew me to the industry is like that, making people happy, making people feel good, you know?
Yeah.
Without even knowing them. Like, back of the house never gets a lot of credit, but like, you know, they're part of your evening. You know, they're a big part.
Exactly.
Of a lot of anniversaries and celebrations. And, you know, if the food's delicious, naturally you're going to be inclined to have a better time.
Right.
You know? So that was kind of what kept me there. But, you know, I remember I kind of lost my way after high school and moved up to Boston with my brother. And I worked at the restaurant he worked at. It was a Spanish tapas lounge called Sophia's. And they had live music every night. It was such a scene, you know? And I was a good cook. I was 18 out of high school. And, you know, we had no dishwasher, and we had to wash our own saute pans and prep all our own shit and put everything away. But it was like really free because the chef was like 24 and the sous chef was like 31, and they were super cool and did their own shit and left me alone. Yeah. Because I had talent. Right. But I was kind of a fuck up, and I would come in late, stoned, or, you know, but I never drank or thought about drugs like while I was cooking. Yeah. It was like food. Right. Food. Like locked in. Food. Super locked in. Like that always went away. And I found that super interesting because the rest of the time that I wasn't in the restaurant, I was usually thinking about drugs and alcohol. But it's very It's very interesting how food became kind of my savior. Yeah. You know, later on in my story. But after my brother graduated from Emerson in Boston, I moved back home with my parents, and my dad was like, you can't just kind of be a fuck up the rest of your life. So why don't you go to culinary school? And I was like, you know what? That's a good idea, Pop. Yeah, I should go to culinary school. And I did. And I did great because I loved it. Yeah. You know, regular school was not for me. Right. You know, once I realized that, and that I didn't have to go that often in high school, I kind of didn't go very often or really at all. But, you know, culinary school, I loved to be there because it was just stuff I was interested in. Yeah. When I was learning something that I loved and getting better at it. So, you know, at that point I started working in the city at a place called Cafe Centro, and then it became my my externship site, where I think we had to do 300 hours like live, and it was great because I was already getting paid. So like, my chef just had to fill out the paperwork, and it was a new externship site. You know? Right. So why not get paid to go to school, basically, at that point? Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, it was kind of the dream. Yeah. You know, and it worked out. It worked out well. Here, now, it did. Yeah, right, exactly. There were some peaks and valleys along the way. Yeah. A lot of valleys. Yeah. I remember just feeling like I was in over my head completely as a new cook, you know, having only really worked in one kitchen setting. In Boston, when you go to New York, you're like, you know, all the cooks were in their 40s, and they were Thai. The whole kitchen was Thai. Okay. Super respectful, super clean, on time, just put together, you know? And I was this 19-year-old fuck up, like, you know, smelling like vodka and trying to bang the waitresses and like late for school every day. Yeah. Tickets on my car and just a fucking disaster. Stand really, for sure. Yeah. Like, obviously, what does not belong here? Yeah. You know? And it was like, that guy, the Irish kid's a fucking mess. You know what I mean? But I stuck with it, and my chef really like took me under his wing and I just learned so much, man. I got my ass kicked every day of my life, and I thank God for it, because I got up every day like having to fight. And that's one thing I think I've always done well.
Yeah.
You know, from being a kid, is like just being the underdog.
Yeah.
You know, I like to play from that position. I don't know why, you know, but I seem to do better that way.
Yeah.
So I still think today, like, I'm the underdog, which people look at me and they're like, shut up, dude. You know, but I'm like, all that matters is what's up here. It's not really what somebody tells me that I am. It's what I feel about myself.
Right.
So, you know, I'm going to stay the underdog for the rest of my life, you know, because it gets me up in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, whatever you need to, I mean, like I said, that's like a big part of your story.
Huge.
You know, and like, if all of a sudden it just switches, like, then what happens?
Yeah, I hope it doesn't.
Nothing, you know? Like, all the stuff that you're doing now just kind of goes, you know, by the wayside, because it's just like not what you're locked in on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to keep it real simple and real humble and just focus on food and hospitality and making people happy.
Yeah. So take me through kind of like the transition from like when you start, like you go to culinary school, then now, like, you know, you have experience working in restaurants and, you know, like front of house stuff, like whatever. But then when you get to like out of culinary school, you start working in kitchens, going from being like just a guy on the line to like opening up your own place. Like that, to me, like in this story,
right,
it might be the most interesting part, to go from, you know, like a self-described fuck up to a guy that's going to like run a whole restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's so interesting to me.
So, you know, I kind of jumped around in the city. I was there for 14 years.
Okay.
And I worked for some big restaurant groups. And, you know, I was always like, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I was kind of always the best cook in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, and I knew that. And I took advantage of that. You know what I mean? I would just kind of, I'd be 45 minutes late every day, come up with a special, and people would be like, oh my God, you know. And in my mind, I'm like, you guys are fucking idiots. You're all fooled. You know what I mean? But like, so I focused on just being the best cook, you know, and then eventually I got a sous chef position at a Italian restaurant called Salute on 39th and Madison. And I worked with Chef Cliff Crooks, who's now like a TV star on the Food Network.
Yeah.
And Francis Falavine, who is the executive chef at Rails. And
Montville, right?
Yeah. And I remember coming in for my interview, and I had like these little blue shorts on, and like it was the summertime. It was like July, and I had like highlights in my hair. At that point, I was like $1.75. You know, I think I was 21, 22. You know what I mean? And
living the dream.
He's like, you a little soft, you a little light in the loafers. I'm like, are you jealous? Like, because you're 45 and chubby? Like, I don't get it. Yeah, what's the deal? Like, I'll run circles around in the kitchen. Aren't I here for a cooking job? He's like, I love this guy.
Yeah.
Got hired, sous chef, and we had a great time, man. We really did. We had a super tight team, and we brought that business from X to Y, and I learned a lot. I truly did. And then from there, I went on to work at China Grill, and I remember that whole interview process, because it was like pretty corporate at that point. They had, I think they had like 16, 17 restaurants at that point. You know? Miami, DC, they were everywhere. You know? They had 4 or 5 in New York at that point. You know, they had Asia to Cuba, China Grill, Ono, which was down in the Gansevoort Hotel. Like, they had all different concepts, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember interviewing for it, and I got the job. And it's a funny story. I was making 55, I think, at Salute at the time, and then I got a jump to like 68, and I was like, dude, I officially own the world, like unfucking stoppable.
Yeah,
you know, 24 making 68 a year, like, dude, you know. Yeah. And this is almost 20 years ago at this point now.
Sure. So that, you know,
which is $1 million a year. Right?
Yeah, inflation and all that shit.
Yeah, the yen, whatever. It might as well have been, seriously, because that's all that I thought.
Yeah.
And I went out, celebrated after I got the job, and I got into a fight at like a pizza shop downtown by Union Square, because I was fucking drunk. You know, when you celebrate, you get drunk. When somebody dies, you get drunk. Like, you know, you're Irish.
Exactly.
That's just how the world works. That's
how
I got down. So I remember my sous chef at the time, who I just met, Andrew D'Ambrosi, who also got famous from being on Top Chef.
Okay.
He invented the phrase culinary boner.
Okay.
So he did pretty well on Top Chef. Yeah. Like, he's been on All Stars and all kinds of shit.
Sure.
Cliff was too.
Yeah.
So I saw him coming out of the subway, and I was like getting punched in the face by 3 different people. And he comes upstairs and he's like, "You're my new boss. You're a fucking brawler." I remember that. And I think I knocked a tooth out that night, and he nursed me back to health, and I slept at his house. And he was like, "How the fuck are you going to be my boss? You look like a pretty big degenerate."
Yeah.
So that went well.
Oh, sure.
Obviously. He took me in, and I couldn't start the next day when I was supposed to. I started the following week. So my chef made up an excuse for me to the corporate team, and he covered for me, which everybody did, from day one,
right,
or day 0 at that point, because I hadn't even officially started yet. But I had 2 black eyes and a crooked fucking nose, and my sous chef knew I was an alcoholic. It was like amazing, tailor made.
Yeah,
and so crazy to think about. But I started that following week, and I moved up in the company. Like, because why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As an alcoholic brawler, you're going to move up in a corporate atmosphere.
Right in. Yeah.
The restaurant scene, it just makes, all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
So I was there for about a year, and Bradley Day, who was my chef at that point, got asked to be the chef at a new restaurant for China Grill called Center Cut. He took the job, and I went from exec sous to executive chef.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my salary went from 68 to 95. And oh boy, forget it.
Yeah, dude.
Only a year in, I was 25 now, making 95, which, might as well be $2 million a year, right? You fucking, I mean, if you looked at my credit card debt, you would think I made $4 of fucking every 10 years.
Right.
It was just, but I always lived big.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, I was the guy.
Right.
And I lived that way and I acted that way.
Yeah.
So that continued. So I got the chef job there. Center Cut ended up not working out, and my corporate chef asked me actually to be the chef of the new restaurant that was going to go into the hotel, called Edge Chowder House. And that was a hard decision for me. I remember it like it was yesterday. He called me, and I was actually on vacation at my parents' house in Ocean City, Maryland, and he kind of just spun it in a way where I agreed to do it. And the reason I was upset is because I was worried about Brad. I was like, but what about Brad? He went to be the chef at Center Cut. He was my chef here. Like, what's going to happen with Brad?
Right.
And he's like, are you going to worry about everybody else or yourself one day? You're going to grow up to be a man? Like, or are you going to walk from the office to the printer and that's going to be your culinary career?
Yeah.
And you're just going to waste your talent.
Yeah.
Like he knew how to,
right.
He just pulled my strings, dude. And I was like, this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll take that job, like, give me that fucking, I want to crush that job. Like, got off the phone yelling at him, like,
right.
Why'd you take so long to offer me the position?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how much he spinned me into a tizzy.
Right.
So I took the position, and Brad ended up coming back to China Grill, which I kind of felt okay about.
Yeah.
It was like a safe, solid job, pretty well-known restaurant, busy, had been there a long time. I think my first year as a chef, we did like 11.3 or something. It's a busy bitch. It was like we had 400 seats. I was good at my job. Right. You know what I mean? And the company had been realizing it. And in the interim, like I dropped the food costs there. I found ways to use different things. So I really got a hold of management, and ownership, quote unquote. But my life was still kind of a mess because I was drinking and staying out and sleeping in the city. And I think I got a DUI or 2 at that point somewhere in the China Grill days. I don't really remember. They're a little foggy. Right. But I was going to go be the chef at the hotel, at the Empire Hotel.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal, man. We had a wedding venue. We had an Edge Chowder House. We had a rooftop. Like it was 3 outlets where I was in charge of the food and beverage operation. And at that point, I think I was 26.
Yeah.
So, and I remember I got a raise to 128. And I was like, dude, can this life get any fucking better? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I got a rooftop bar now at my
yeah.
You know what I mean? Just when at my disposal, whenever I wanted, I could go up there and party. And we crushed it. Like Edge Chowder House from the first weekend, because we were across from Lincoln Center.
Okay,
we did 378 covers like before 8 o'clock.
Wow.
Because there was a show across the street,
right?
And corporate chef called me the first night. And he's like, "Come down to Ono, stay at the Gansevoort with your wife, and dinner's on me." And I was like, it was just a dream basically at that point.
Yeah.
But I fucked up that job real bad. did very well on the outside, but then that New Year's Eve, I remember I was sick. I had a cold. I was drinking Dayquil like all day.
Yeah.
And I went up to the rooftop to party. It was New Year's Eve. And I drank about a bottle of tequila in, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes because I was thirsty.
Sure.
And that with the Dayquil, just,
Oh, yeah.
it didn't really go very well. And I got home around 5:30 in the morning. And my wife videotaped me and showed me the next day. And we had brunch on New Year's Day. It was a hotel. You did breakfast, lunch, and dinner 365 days a year.
Right.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
And I was 5.5 hours late for my shift. And when I got in, the GM was like, Jamie, come on, we have a conference call. And I was like, and he's like, Jeffrey Charterow was on the phone, the owner of China Grill.
Yep.
His two partners, Neil Fagan and Bob Frost, the head of HR. And Jeffrey spoke. He's like, Jamie, two things. One, you're no longer employed at the Empire Hotel. You're a liability. We've reviewed all the videotapes, and you were sexually explicit and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And we're going to pay for you to go to rehab because you're a super talented chef and we think you're an amazing human being, but you have a drinking problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. Well, yeah, I just was overcome with emotion.
Sure.
I just had bought a house in Nutley. My wife was pregnant with our second kid. Like, we had 2 new cars in the driveway. You know, just like,
Yeah.
my whole life was just about to happen.
Right.
And I had to fuck it up because, you know, that's just what I did throughout kind of my whole childhood, adolescent. You know, I never really like found a place for myself. I always thought I was different and unique and, you know, rules didn't apply to me.
Right.
And there were never really like consequences that I took seriously.
Yeah.
But I remember that day and that feeling and the walk of shame, quite frankly. Like, I had to go get my knives from the kitchen and, you know, there's 25 people in the kitchen.
Right.
You know, and I just had my tail between my legs collecting my shit. I went in the office, grabbed my clothes, put my shoes on and fucking like lumbered out,
Yeah.
you know? And I remember I walked, it's 63rd and Broadway, and I walked to Port Authority, which is 42nd and 8th, because I just needed like,
Yeah.
I just needed something else,
Right.
you know, to feel anything else. And I was actually so disgusted with myself, I didn't go drink at that. There was a French bistro in Port Authority that I would go drink at every night.
Yeah.
Because I took the bus and I work hard and I deserve a drink.
Sure.
My drinking was just always different, you know, and I would stop in there every night and have, you know, 5, 6, 7 tequila on the rocks that just were in rocks glasses with one rock, you know, because I was friends with the bartender and I'd leave $50 every day and he would never charge me for anything.
Right.
And I made friends with the chef because, you know,
Yeah.
we're chefs and
Yeah.
let's chef it up. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then he would just feed me specials and we would talk about food and, you know,
Yeah.
it was my local watering hole.
Right.
So that day I just didn't want to drink. You know, there was something in my stomach. I had a pit. I had to go home and tell my new bride that, you know, I got fired. And it was the longest bus ride in the history of bus rides. And it's, even though it's only 8 miles from Manhattan to Nutley, but you know, I walked up to the door and I forgot my key, obviously, because I was a total fucking hungover mess.
Yeah.
Knocked on the door. Krista opened the door, like holding the baby. And I was just like, I just broke down. She's like, you got fired. And I was like, yep. And I didn't drink for 11 and a half years.
Wow.
From that night previous.
Yeah.
So my sober date was 1/2/11. So actually it was 1/1/11, if you want to count. I don't know.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But either way, I didn't drink for 11 and a half years. And I kind of built my whole life.
Yeah.
From that point on. Like,
Right.
You know, it wasn't easy. I remember not being able to sit with myself at all. I went to rehab. They paid for it. And, you know, I kind of got my wits back about me.
The Mayo Performing Arts Center is the heart of arts and entertainment in Morristown, New Jersey. MPAC presents over 200 events annually and is home to an innovative children's arts education program. To see MPAC's upcoming schedule of world-class concerts, stand-up comedy, family shows, and more, head to mayoarts.org or just click the link in our show notes. Bored of going to the same park? Want to try a new local adventure? Well, then check out njspots.com, your home for finding a new spot to discover right here in New Jersey. With dozens of maps to check out, local hiking spots, family-friendly places, and seasonal suggestions, NJ Spots is waiting for you to find somewhere new to explore. That's njspots.com.
I didn't know any other way to live because from the age of 12, I'm happy. I drink and smoke pot and whatever else comes into play. I'm sad. I do all that,
Right.
And then I just started doing all that anyway, no matter what the feelings were. And then just were no feelings. And I was left with all that still.
Yeah.
So I had to understand how to live life on life's terms. And it was not that easy.
Right.
I realized I had a lot going on at that point, even then.
Yeah. But listen to this story. It's just, there's so many, just to keep all this shit straight.
You forget it. Forget it. And,
it's like, when you think that you have a lot going on in your life, and then all of a sudden someone starts telling you their story, and you're like, fuck, this
guy's completely out of his tree. And, I was, but that was normal to me. And I needed all that to feel anything.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And just thank God that happened.
Yeah.
Thank God that happened. And thank God Jeffrey was like, dude, you're amazing. You just need to get rid of that. And you could do anything you want in this world. You just can't do that,
Right.
And I didn't do that. And I went to 90 meetings in 90 days, and I got a sponsor, and I went to a big book, and I did all, and my life just got better.
Yeah.
It just got better because my mind got cleared. The cobwebs are gone, and, I started respecting myself as a human being, and then I had respect for others, and, became a good dad. And then, I went back to work. Probably I went to rehab for 3 months. I went back to work after that, the 4th or 5th month, and they cut my salary by 25 or 30% because I took a different job at a different hotel.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can no longer be employed at the Empire.
Sure.
So,
right.
I went to a different spot, and they made me the culinary director of the food park, which was kind of the first multi-unit food hall in New York City.
Cool.
It was on 30th and 6th at the Aventi Hotel. And we opened 6 different concepts. And it was great. I had a good time, but I was underwater at that point because my life was set up financially this way, and I just wasn't making the same money. So, I had to humbly ask my dad for $1,000 a month just to pay my mortgage. You know what I mean? And so at that time I was a little bit defeated. So I started looking for another job, and I got the executive chef job at Artisanal, which was a French bistro on 32nd and Park. And I got my salary back, and I got bonuses, and, things were pretty good.
Yeah.
At that point. And, I was there for almost 2 years. I had 11 sous chefs in that time period because Terrence Brennan was a little bit crazy, and every time I was off on a Monday, he would call me and be like, this guy's doesn't belong here, and I'm going to let him know that.
Right.
And I would get a text message at the end of the night like, Chef, I got to give you my notice.
Right.
Do you stop coming to work on Monday, Terrence, please? He's like, if you're not here, I got to be here. Otherwise it's going to go to shit. And I'm like, you haven't been there for 4 years. And I fixed it. So stay away now. Now's not the time to come back.
Yeah.
You're making my life very difficult.
Yeah.
So that was tough, man. That was a tough job. Big, busy restaurant. And it was all on the line every day, always. We did 200 for lunch and 300 for dinner and 400 for brunch.
Yeah.
But I kind of came up in those big places. So
right.
I pretty much took it in stride,
Yeah.
And the food was great. The food cost was great. But I kind of wanted something different. So I did a tasting for BLT Group, and I got the job, and I was going to be the chef at BLT Steak on 57th Street, which was had some, had some cachet. It was, Laurent Tornadell, pretty famous guy. And the guys that were corporate chefs before me, like Mark Forgione, those are big names. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I belong in this group? I didn't really think so, but I did a tasting, and it's still to this day probably the best tasting I ever did, where, the president and vice president and the owner were like, dude, you fucking destroyed it. This may be the best tasting we've ever had.
Right.
And we've had these other guys come before you. So, so I went in first day for corporate meeting, signed paperwork, etc. The office was on 24th and 6th, and got there 15 minutes early. First time I was ever early for anything in my whole life. And president looks at me, and by the way, the corporate chef was Cliff Crooks, so a full circle.
Yeah, right.
Back to work with my boy.
Yeah.
He's like, did you tell him? No. Did you tell him? No. He's like, well, we're going to make you a corporate chef. You're going to train at BLT 57th, and then we're going to move you around, and you're going to have 4 or 5 locations in the city. And I was like, wow, that's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I look back on it now, and I was underpaid probably 50%, but, you know, at that point, that was my biggest job, and my base was 160, and I was like, now I'm really a big shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at that point, like, that was like breaking even, because I had built my life up where I needed that to fucking pay for everything. You know? When you have 2 kids, 2 cars, mortgage, and you live in Nutley, like, life's expensive. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But that was just a super experience. I got my teeth kicked in every day in a different way, because I was corporate at that point. So it was all emails, all food cost, all tastings, all business, you know, no bullshit. And that was the point where kind of the food started to become, you know, not the back seat, but like, you got to focus on numbers.
Yeah.
You
Like
know,
1B.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, numbers are first.
Right.
Food's got to be amazing. That's
Of
a
course.
given.
Yeah. Because
But numbers are first. We're a business.
Yeah.
You know? And that was really a transitional period for me. And I learned a fuck ton. And you know, during that period, I was looking for restaurants while I worked for them. Even at Artisanal, I was looking for restaurants, because I knew, like, I was pretty good at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I understood cost analysis. I understood how to put food on a plate. And I thought I understood how to read a P&L and, you know, everything. And I was a little confident enough or cocky enough to not realize what I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, and I
you
think
need that a little bit too, I think.
you, for sure, you do. In this industry, you kind of got to look the other way and be not risk averse. What would be the opposite of that?
Risk ignorant, almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, risk ignorant. That's true. Like, you want that on your shoulder.
Right.
And that's kind of where I was in my career. And, you know, a broker showed me the Saddle River Inn, and I was like, this place exists? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I remember driving around Saddle River before the meeting and just thinking to myself, like, are we in fucking Beverly Hills? Like, where are we now? Because the town is, it's not like many other towns.
You know, it's very unique to itself.
Super unique, super special.
Yeah.
The minimum lots are 2 acres, and, you know, the average house is probably 20,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And if you're not from that, you can't comprehend that.
Right. It's like a different world.
It's a different world, and you go get lost in it, and like I did for an hour. And then I sat in the meeting trying to keep my mouth shut, but I knew, like, they're going to have to claw this place out of my fucking dead, dying hands. You know? And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
Made him an offer. They accepted it. I found a financier. He's my dad. And you know, I offered him a 200% payback, and he agreed to it, because he didn't want to be in the business at all.
Right.
He's like, I'm a dentist. I have a good life. I don't want to write you a check, but I know you've done really well in your career, and I'm proud of you. And, you know, you're sober, and you have a beautiful family, and I'd love to see you be successful.
Yeah.
So he took a big risk, man, and he wrote me a check for $350, and I gave it to Hans and Imelda Egg, and, you know, we scrapped together another like 35 or 40 to buy plates and clean the place up, you know.
Yeah, right.
Tables, chairs, etc.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even think we had money to do the carpet. We changed the vanities in the bathroom, and we opened the doors.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't easy. The beginning was rough. The bills were high. The note payment was high. You know, I promised them, I think, $6K a month, which was like, you know, when I did my performa, we were going to destroy, right? But,
of course.
You know, new kid from the city in a famed place like the Saddle River Inn. It was a tough go. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, we would do 25, 30 covers. Friday, first weekend, we did 107, and we sold 84 Maribars, which was the filet mignon, which is the only thing I kept on the menu.
Yeah.
Which I did it because Hans was like, I retired from this steak. You should keep it.
Yeah, yeah.
I know you're super talented. Like, he was a 6'5" Swiss man.
Yeah.
Sweetest guy in the world, you know? But he's like, change the whole fucking menu. I'm sick of looking at it, you know, but keep this.
Yeah.
And so I kept the Marabar, and I kept what he called the chinois at the time. It was a crab meat salad, but I changed it and put my spin on it.
Of course.
No. But I kept one app and one entree because I didn't want people to think like, you know, here's City Slicker coming in, fucking Yosemite Sam guns blazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm smarter than these guys. I'm keeping one app and one entree, but right? It was rough go, man. Like, they were not ready for my style, really, I would do a vegetable 3 ways on a plate. You know what I mean? And they were like, dude, you're in fucking Saddle River. Like,
Yeah.
So I had a partner at the time, David Madison, who was a little rough around the edges, who didn't really quite jive with me. And I didn't
Keep telling this story, but I was curious at the camera while you're telling this story.
Go ahead. So like David Madison, I met him at Artisanal, actually. He was the GM when I was there, and we hit it off. And he was from Ramsey, and he kind of knew of the Saddle River Inn, and he made us look at it. So, from there, I gave him 20% because I thought, hey, he found it. And I didn't have my license at the time. I had my second or third DUI. And I still wasn't driving.
Yeah.
That's how long it had been. And I hadn't drank at that point for 7 years.
Right.
And I still wasn't driving.
That's right.
Because I got my first Dewey suspended while my license was suspended for too many points or some shit. I got my second one 82 days later. And then they just threw the book at me. I didn't drive for like a little under 8 years.
Wow.
Because of it. Yeah, I didn't do any jail time, which was like the only thing that mattered to me.
Yeah.
Because this face I don't think I'd fare well in jail.
Probably no. Yeah. I mean, not that I think that I would, but
I don't want to find out.
Right. Yeah. I want to run that.
I'm way more comfortable on this side of the bars.
Yeah.
So David turned out to not be a great human being. And I found that out slowly over time. And, some of the things that happened were sexual harassment charges and making those go away and not paying payroll taxes for 19 months. And I had to borrow money from my accountant and not tell my dad. And like, there was all this shit,
Yeah.
that nobody knows or nobody sees.
Right.
And then actually David, finally, I had to buy him out. And it was the day before we got our New York Times review. I remember the head of the Times calling me and saying, is he in or is he out? We have to run the story. It goes to print this morning at 5:15 or whatever.
Yeah.
This was a Friday, right before I went in.
Okay.
And I checked the account, and he cashed the check. And I was like, he's out. Let's go.
Yeah.
The review came out the next morning in the Times, and the first 4 sentences were like, kind of David being a dick.
Yeah.
Which he was.
Right.
And then the next 1,500 words were just like, they made me cry.
Yeah.
It was the best thing that ever happened to me besides the birth of my children. And, and I'm not just saying that. I remember going to one of the regulars' houses because they subscribe to the Times. And she's like, just grab the paper. It's in my mailbox. So I grabbed the paper, I sat down and I read it, and I just bawled for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Finally, something felt good, felt right. Like,
right.
I had officially arrived.
Exactly.
It wasn't all the false bravado with making more money and the bullshit and, bad decisions and girls. It was none of that.
Yeah.
It was me with my nose to the grindstone, kicking my own ass every day and lighting my own fire. And, we got an excellent in the New York Times. And from that moment on, we did max covers, like, from that Tuesday on.
Yeah.
And it was like that for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. And then we would just kept, the accolades kept coming and coming and coming and coming. And, those 25 covers on a Tuesday, it's a little different now. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah. We do 120 covers pretty much every day we're open.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is.
That's great. Just, yeah, like the whole story, like I keep saying, is just wild. Like you said, like the every time you joke, like you got a pay bump and you're like, oh, I'm the king of the world. And it's just like, but then it's still almost this thing where it's like you said, it was like fake, like fake in a sense that it's like, it changes your mindset, but really you're still kind of in like the same place. But then to kind of go through what you did and then do it all on your own, essentially, that's something to me that I think is even more impressive, simply because it's like you have no one else. Like there's obvious like some safety nets,
right?
But at the end of the day, it's like it's all on you. Like the way that this restaurant goes is going to be you, and that's like a lot of responsibility. And maybe like old Jamie, well, I'm sure he could have figured it out for like a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe wouldn't have been able to do it.
I don't think long-term success was in the cards.
But even still, like all those things that you had to go through to like even though you were a fuck up and like kind of going through that stuff, like you had all these other skills that you had built up in that time. And then it was like that final piece of the puzzle, like the end stuff, like we talked about, to like get you to this point and actually like, you know, make this thing go?
It was like the pinnacle of my career and my life at that point, reading 2,000 pages in the New York Times, you know?
Yeah.
Because I didn't mention this, but going back a little bit at Edge Chowder House, we kind of got pooped on in a review.
Okay.
And they did Ono and Edge Chowder in the same review because it was the same company.
Yeah.
So they got, Ono got 2 stars and we got 1. And I was just crushed, dude. Because you know, in my mind, I'm the best fucking cook in the kitchen. Like, how dare you give me 1 star, you know? And ownership still loved me because like we were that busy and profitable, you know, from day one. But it crushed me, man.
Yeah.
It really just crushed my ego, all of it, you know, super humbling. And that was that underdog fighter in me that was like, I'm going to get the best fucking review that anybody's ever written, you know?
Right.
And I remember reading it and I was like, this almost seems like my mom wrote this fucking thing, you know, right?
It like if my grandma would write a podcast review for me.
Dude, exactly. It was so surreal that I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know? And it just made everything jive, man. It made everything worth it. And, you know, it made paying bills a lot easier and paying my dad back a lot easier. And just everything just got a little bit easier while getting harder.
Right.
Because we didn't know how to do 120 covers on a fucking Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know.
Yeah.
And honestly, at that point, it was probably like 90, because that's when you make these marks in your mind and these numbers, you can't go over it, you know?
Right.
And I didn't break that threshold for a while. It was really like this, it was this mental barrier, you know? And I had put those up in my life forever.
Sure.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
When you tell somebody your hopes and dreams and they're like, dude, you're so unrealistic, you know? And you're like, all right, this is not my guy.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, now I want the people that are like, that's it? You know, like,
right.
Why aren't you swinging for the fucking fences? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You tell somebody you want to make 5 a year and they're like, why don't you want to make 10? You know, it takes the same fucking work.
Yeah.
Grow up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Stand up on your own 2 feet. You know, those are the people I need around me at this point in my life. And, you know, we did 80, 90 covers always, you know, and then I had a different manager come in to cover a shift, and he's like, dude, the dining room sits fucking 20% empty half the night. You guys are playing it too safe. So I was like, what do I do? You know, I was like, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you saying, dude? First of all, how fucking dare you?
You come into my restaurant.
How fucking dare you? You know? But the other side of me was like, show me. And he's like, show you what? Open the book. You have all these numbers.
Yeah.
You have all these timelines on every tape. Deuces don't take 2 hours. They just don't.
Right.
The food comes out quick. You know, there's no bar. Nobody's lingering. It's a BYOB. Like, cut it down to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
He's like, you'll do 25 more covers every day. So we cut it down to an hour and a half. And sure enough, we started doing 100 on Tuesday. And then, you know, he came back like 6 months later. He's like, dude, you guys are even faster now. Like, you know, make it hour 15 for a douche, you know, like,
yeah.
And you really start to play with it, and then you figure it out. And, you know, people will eat at 5 o'clock in Saddle River.
Right.
I don't know why. It's just one of those towns.
Culture. Yeah.
Culture. Yeah. They're classy folk. I mean, you know, when the sun goes down, they roll up the fucking sidewalks.
Yeah.
They will eat at 5 o'clock every day of the week, dude. So, you know, we started taking advantage of that a little more.
Yeah.
And, you know, the 100 became 120, and it just kind of stayed like that.
Right.
Knock on something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm not a superstitious guy, but like, I think we do a very good job.
Yeah.
You know, we have the food, the service, and the atmosphere. You know, it's a barn built in 1791 sitting on the Saddle River. Like, in my mind, you can't fucking pick a better spot.
Yeah.
You know? The only thing that could make that place better is a liquor license, and it's already happening. You know, I'm feeling the feeling already. And I'm making it
manifest.
I am. I'm just, you know, and Murphy's, I think he's trying to work it out. So, you know.
At least he says he is. He's trying to work like a lot of stuff out.
No doubt about it.
Right.
You know, but for years and years, I've always felt like, you know, when Michelin comes to New Jersey, I would love to get a star. That's like, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And in my mind, like, to be that real player, you need a sick wine list. And, you know, like, those things would really help. But you know what? When I first got sober and had my own restaurant, having a bar wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now my goals have changed a little bit, and they're different. And I have 3 kids that don't stop eating. So, you know, I think a bar would help with those things and goals.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was my baby, and that's my number one. And we turned 10 years in last January. Was, I mean, just blink of an eye.
That's crazy, yeah.
And every time that I had like a real serious chef de cuisine / exec sous, I could go open a restaurant. So I try and hire the most talented people possible. I always have. That's kind of like, now my thing is like talent acquisition manager. That's what I call myself.
Right.
Because I try and utilize my relationships to get the best people in the industry, because I want to be surrounded by greatness. And I'm kind of an old school cook, and there's a lot of new techniques and things like that. And I don't want to get washed over by the industry, so to speak. You know? So again, I'm that underdog, like looking for, the theme just keeps reoccurring in my mind. And it's what makes me feel like my back is against the wall, where I can get up every day and like, let's go get them,
Right.
Like, I don't want to get knocked out today.
Yeah.
So how do I avoid that right hook and get better?
Yeah. Is that kind of like with these new places that you've opened since then? So obviously Saddle River Inn's first. Was Cellar next?
Cellar was next.
And then the cafe, and then Madam?
Yep.
Okay. And so like with these new places, is that kind of like that, like the mindset that you're putting yourself into? Like are these, and they're also, I guess a better question would be like different concepts almost to try to like try something new to kind of like push that envelope more?
I make a joke that my multiple personality disorder is perfect for the kind of restaurant group I want to own, because they happen to be all completely different concepts, So Cellar was like the kind of place that I could see myself hanging out and eating at, very different. So I describe it like Saddle River Inn is a sports coat, with your wife on your anniversary, and Cellar 335 is ripped jeans with an old school band t-shirt, for your birthday, where you want to just rip it up a little bit, you know? So that's kind of how we played it. And Jersey City was that kind of raw, undeveloped market, if you will, especially when we signed the lease. The first time I met my partner there, I've told this story, but it's just so fucking funny. The first time I met my partner there, he rode his bike from his office in Hoboken, and I drove because I had my car, and I got there a couple minutes after him because there was traffic. And, I walked in and I was like, Bob, where's your bike? And he's like, oh, it's right out front. I was like, no, it's not.
Not anymore.
And so like, how long have you been here? He's like, fucking 3 minutes, maybe, and I'm like, perfect. This is the neighborhood for us.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's open $1 million fucking restaurant in the basement of a old church / wedding venue, which that kind of was. White Eagle Hall was a lot of things in that community. They played bingo. They did the dances. St. Peter's Prep practiced there for 50 years. Like where we built the space out it was a weight room. It was bathrooms. It was, naturally it should be a
restaurant.
Yeah. An Asian tiki bar.
Exactly.
What else would it be? There's nothing else on the planet it could possibly be.
Right. It really, I could see the steps, the ball bouncing.
Yeah. It's right there. It's so simple.
Right.
So it makes sense for my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so what I also think is interesting is just kind of like you describing the restaurants that you've worked in, and then kind of like the types of restaurants that you're opening, like not that they're like the same, but just it seems to me like the restaurants you worked in were kind of like, as far as cuisines, were like all over the place.
For sure.
Like so many different kinds, like, styles, whatever.
Right.
And then just even getting the vibe of like the stuff that you do now, like it also seems, it's obviously, we just talked about it. It's still very different.
It's very different. I don't necessarily know how it comes about really, but when I get in the space, I kind of just, I let it wash over me a little bit, and I start to develop and think about it then. And, this is what happened. So to me, Jersey City was like a little gritty and grimy. And so there's, it's all black and there's graffiti on every wall.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of what the city needed in my mind.
Yeah.
And it was not initially a huge success. Like, yes, great reviews, top 30, crushed it on the weekends, but like, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, how many people were coming to the hood in JC to get a tropical drink,
Yeah.
20,
right,
30.
Yeah.
And it was like that for probably 3.5 years. But as we stuck with it and we kept doing our thing and the neighborhood started to grow and things happened,
being like, I feel like especially in an area like obviously also interesting being in Saddle River, to start your first restaurant, and then going into like what that area was, and even like in a certain degree, like kind of still is, kind of definitely. It hasn't caught up, I think, to the rest of like other parts of Jersey City,
Right.
but it's still trending in that direction. Obviously,
For sure.
just Jersey City and that whole area as a whole is, there's a lot of money coming through.
No doubt about it. And, COVID was good and bad because, it shut us down for a long time. But everybody that was in the city paying $5,800 a month looked over and was like, Jersey City's right there, bro. Let's go. It's $3,000.
Right.
Huge difference.
Exactly.
Saved my life, changed my life. Like, let's move over here. So, I mean, I think it kind of sped up the process.
Yeah.
If you look at it now, the gentrification is huge. I mean, there's 12 new buildings in 4 blocks.
Yeah.
I just, I walk around in a circle and I still can't believe it. Across the street, behind us, next to it. I mean, we're just, saturated.
Yeah.
Where, it was all single level buildings forever. And then it just kind of happened where people took a shot and they started investing in the neighborhood. And now a 1-bedroom across the street is like $929,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where we came a long way from bikes getting stolen in 3 minutes, Yeah. Now you see nannies with $1,000 strollers walking by.
Yeah.
And you're just like, where?
This is still the same spot.
What happened here?
Yeah.
And this is all in 9 years, 10 years, right? So we look smart now.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
Even,
but we broke even for, 4 years.
Yeah.
So
talk about Madam too, because like you said, it's connected, but it's still like its own space. But like just being recording that one episode with Rashawn in the other space, and then we got a drink on the other side, like after the fact. Two totally different types of places.
Oh, they're night and day.
Yeah.
So basically the deal with Madam is that when we first got in there, we knew there was another restaurant over there. And always from day one, I was like, like an excited child playing with a ball.
Right.
Just got on Christmas. Like, can't wait to get in there and get, sink my teeth into it. And forever we thought it was going to be like our private event room.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It was going to be like an extension of Cellar. Yeah.
Yes. Forever. That's what I thought of. Like, I almost wanted to call it like the Emerald Room and make it like tasting in the beginning.
Sure.
With more sushi and even dim sum for brunch on the weekends. That's originally what I thought. And then I got to know the owners and we got to talking and, I always told them, I was like, dude, just make sure I'm your first phone call. Like, verbal first right of refusal.
Yeah.
Just come to me first, which we had in our lease, thank God. But, Still,
yeah.
If he was against it, then it probably wouldn't have came about the way it did. But Matisse called me one day about a little over a year ago, and he's like, Jamie, I'm ready to retire. And I said, great, what's the number? And he said $1 million. And I said, you're not ready to retire, but call me when you are, because I'm here,
Right.
3 months went by, called me again. Jamie, we're at 700 now. And I said, you're almost ready.
Almost there, man.
You're almost there, but call me when you really are ready.
Yeah.
Another 3 months went by, and he's like, can we sit down and talk about this, please? We're ready to retire. So we went over, we sat down, we chopped it up, and, we came to a number. And the best part about it for both of us is he retained his liquor license and sold it separately, and we bought the business from him.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, the business wasn't the valuable part.
Okay.
It was where it was. It's just a location.
Yeah.
I already am here. Like, we know what to expect. We're in Jersey City. So, he got his check, super happy, and we went to the ABC and we extended our liquor license. So the last license went for $400 in JC. So in my mind, it was a wash. You know, we kind of got it for free.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Right.
It makes sense to me. I don't care if anybody tells me it doesn't. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it made sense to Matisse as well. Like, he got to go get what he originally wanted. And you know what? With the 2 separate entities, he got almost close to $1 million, which is where he was originally. So
right.
God bless him, Yeah. And I got what I was looking at for 8 years. What's behind that black door?
Yeah.
And when they opened Madame Claude, almost 20 years ago, might be a little over at this point, in that neighborhood, to do a French bistro, dude, you got to be out of your fucking mind.
Yeah.
And it kind of correlates to when Saddle River Inn opened in 1981.
Sure.
They had white glove service.
Yeah.
They were wheeling around Garridons and doing Dover Soul tableside. Nobody was doing that shit,
Right.
you know? So I kind of felt some similarities there, and I was like, you know what? I know how to do this. I can pay homage to the neighborhood while keeping it the same in essence, but making it, you know, Jamie Knott.
Yeah, like a refresh.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, revitalization,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And that's kind of what we did, you know? We redid the bar and the floor and the tables and the kitchen.
It's an awesome space.
It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's so sexy.
I was so pissed that you guys were closed that day just because I was like, at least I just want to get like a fucking drink or something just to like get the vibe.
Yeah,
you know, whole
of course.
Thing. It was such a cool thing.
Well, now after this, we have a reason to come back.
Right, 100%.
So, you know, bartering is the way of the world.
I love the barter.
So I would love to feed you, man.
Yeah.
If you would allow me to do so.
I would be happy
That would
to.
be my privilege.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we did. We paid a little homage to the old ownership, and we modernized it in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah.
From the bar to the food to the service to the atmosphere, you know? And the space, like the raw space itself, just, you can't beat it, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then you add art and lighting and food and beverage in there and the people and the music, and you're like, I think this is going to be something here, you know? And we opened the day before Thanksgiving in 22, and, you know, it was busy from Jump Street, and we did like, that Saturday, we did like 173 covers, and there's 52 seats in there. So it was like,
Trying to burn.
I think we got a hit on our hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah.
Because we were only open. We did friends and family Monday, Tuesday. Opened Wednesday. Closed Thursday for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it was,
That's a week.
dude, it was wild. It was wild.
Yeah.
And you know what? From the time we signed, I think they cashed the check. Honestly, the date in my mind is like July 19th. We got the liquor license hearing on August 24th, the day before my wife's birthday, and we opened in November, September, October, November. We opened like 98 days, dude. That fucking restaurant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, boom.
Right.
But everything was kind of there. Like, the path was built.
Yeah.
And we had done it. So we have our designer, we have our printer, we have our sign guy. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of have all this in place, and we pulled it together, and it just, you know, and we also learned like what not to do. And what I mean by that is like, you can't wait for the drapes, bro.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to say, fuck it. We're going to open without the curtains, you know? And we did.
Yeah.
And without the lighting and without some of the art, because nobody knows.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
I would have no idea.
How the fuck would you know we have leopard print fucking drapes on the way from India?
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
Well, no idea.
You right?
Like, you know what this place is missing? Leopard print drapes.
Or there should be some heart here hanging from chains, right?
I'm not fucking coming back.
Yeah, this place is trash, dude. Let's get the fuck out of here.
No thought into it.
Nobody knows that.
Exactly.
Man. So, you know, you suck it up and, you know, you fight the big battles and you hopefully win most of them, you know, and I think so far, so good.
Yeah.
You know, we've gotten some super solid reviews, and I know we're cooking good food, and I know we're taking care of people, you know?
Yeah.
And the cocktails are pretty fucking sick. So here we are.
Yeah.
You know, and then Kinjo like just kind of fell on our laps, to be honest with you. This gentleman by the name of Dave Barry owns Irby, which is a, how do I put it? I guess they build, you know, high-end apartment complexes in urban areas.
Okay.
Is basically what they do.
Sure.
So they just built one in Newark that opened October 15th of 22. And Dave happens to go to Cellar and, you know, asked for a meeting and said, hey, we would love to have, you know, a restaurant there. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and I brought a concept, you know, Kinjo. It came from who the fuck knows. It means neighborhood in Japanese, which is what they do, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, all right, fuck it. And I'm picturing this chubby Japanese woman like making dumplings.
Yeah.
And, you know, Drew did all the branding.
Right.
He was on last week.
Yeah.
And, you know, this right here is, yeah. And, you know, they make cool shit.
Yeah.
So we made some cool shit together, and we're going to open Kinjo in like 90 days, dude, in Newark, New Jersey, which is where I bought marijuana every day of my youth, you know?
Right.
Literally.
Yeah.
You know, we drove in my buddy Dennis Costa's Cutlass Oldsmobile Supreme, listening to Bob Marley and driving through the park.
Right.
Because if you drive through the park and listen to Bob Marley, you can't get caught. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's not drawing attention at all.
Yeah. 4 white kids going to Newark to buy pot at 3:30 every afternoon.
Yeah.
Not suspicious in any way, shape, or form.
Not just blending in for sure. It's that, yeah, it's so interesting to me. Like, again, like I said at the beginning, kind of like the trajectory of like people's, like, especially like chefs and people that work in kind of like a creative type field, kind of how they get from, you know, like where they start in life to kind of like what they're doing now.
Right.
But then just also to kind of watch like the almost like a restart for you to kind of get from like, it's like a second story almost. And it's just like very interesting to me to kind of see like kind of where you're at now, like beyond Kinjo, and just, you know, maybe you don't even have this, but you may.
I do.
Like more shit coming down.
More shit coming. I got, you know, I think 6, 7, 8 are just kind of going to roll at this point because momentum's big.
Right. I agree with that.
I've found that in this lifetime, you know, you kind of have to accept and understand that these gifts are going to keep coming. And if you're willing to see them and appreciate them and be grateful for them, then you get to open a new box almost every day, you know, which is amazing. I pray every morning, you know, in a positive way, not like, please, can I have this?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. If I was a cat, I'm on my 34th life. Like, you know, truly.
Yeah.
You know, I've been to rehab 5 times. Like, I've been arrested too many times to count.
Yeah.
You know, I've lost almost every job I ever had, you know, because I wasn't grateful.
Yeah.
I didn't really appreciate it. I thought it was like owed to me.
Right.
You know, now I just don't feel that way today. I feel super grateful, and my perspective and mindset are just like ultra positive, and I want to help everybody I can, and anybody who's in my path, you know, like my chef at Kinjo, like, just got his first apartment. Like, you know, I helped him get it, and you know what I mean? Just like he's posting of going to the gym, and it's in the building, and he's got amenities, and just gratefulness. It goes such a long way, you know, because this life could be very different for me, you know, and I don't know that I'm meant to be here. So every day that I am, I'm going to take complete advantage of it. So, you know, I think the next restaurant is Italian or a steakhouse. Okay. Because those are the 2 things that that I've left in my bag of tricks. Like, you know, in me bag of lucky charge. You know, I've worked at an Italian restaurant, or, you know, I grew up in Nutley, which is the spaghetti triangle, you know, fucking 12 pizzerias and steakhouses. I just have eaten at them or worked at them forever, dude. You never heard that one before? Yeah.
I can't believe I haven't.
It's Nutlly, Belleville, Bloomfield, you know?
Okay, yeah, right.
AEIOU. Yeah. You know, if your name didn't end in a vowel, you don't belong in these fucking towns.
Yeah.
Right, what I mean?
I get it. Again, like, I just think it's so cool, and I love just kind of like I love how different they all are, you know, because, like, I mean, not to like knock other chefs, but like you see like a guy like do something that's like the same but different, you know, because like in different spots, but,
you know, and safety is a thing,
right? Like, if you know you're good at one thing, just like murder that thing. That's a big thing too.
That's kind of the Gary V thing, right? He's like, find something you're good at and exploit it,
crush it. Yeah,
I'm trying to do that, but just with a little different flavor, you know. I'm just, just she's literal flavor it a little bit, exactly. Just chefing it up, if you will, you know. And I like to see what I can do. It kind of let me surprise myself and go out there and do something different, you know? Yeah. And I get to meet different types of people and different atmospheres as well. Like, you know, the Irby has 14 buildings, I think. Mm-hmm. And there's a different food and beverage operation in all of them. Right. And in my second meeting with Dave, I was like, I want every food and beverage operation this company has. Yeah. Like, that's the way my mind works today. And people were like, dude, like, slow the fuck down. No. Why? Right. What's the point of that? Yeah. If we can do it really well and give people jobs and create experiences and memories, like, there is no slowdown. There's only one pedal in my car, and it's the gas pedal. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
one speed.
If you need to ride somewhere, hop the fuck in. Otherwise, hop the fuck out. Right. You know? Because we going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This episode, so I think I told you before, like, we were going to like break this up into segments. Yeah. Obviously, we did no segments.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, like, we got into a point where you were like at the time where you got fired, right, was when we were going to break. And I was like, I can't break right now. And then that's when I just made the decision. We're just like, fuck it. We're just going to like go.
Gotta go.
And then I'll break it where I have to. But,
well, I'm caffeinated and hydrated. So those 2 things are, you know.
Those are the 2 big ones.
Yes, I can talk.
Yeah. But again, this was so great. I really appreciate you, you know, having me in your home again and, you know, sharing your story with me, because like I knew you a little bit, like met you once. Okay, my mic. Met you once, but really didn't know like anything about you outside of like the restaurants that you own. But if people want to learn more about you and like the restaurants, let's hit them with those again. And if there's like a website or something,
absolutely.
Too.
So the easiest way to find me is on Instagram, right? It's not.jamie, and my link tree has all of our stuff we have happening. So Saddle River Inn, Cellar 335, Saddle River Cafe, Madam, and then Kinjo is coming up next. So, lucky number 5.
Yeah.
If you talk to my high school geometry teacher, she would be like, there's no fucking way that kid is not in prison.
That's not that Jamie Knott.
No, you mean a different Jamie Knott, right?
It must be a very...
I literally have my English teacher from 7th grade, Mr. Kocham, like, you don't know how proud of you we are.
That's so cool.
We talk about it like amongst the teachers, all kind of retired at the same time and keep in touch. And it blows my mind.
Yeah.
Really, like,
that's wild.
Talk about troubled youth. Like, if I wasn't breaking windows, I was breaking balls.
Right.
Or breaking both. Like, because that's how I roll, from, like I said, 7 to 27. Like, I was out there to get in some shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And today's different, thank God.
Yeah. No, I love that. So I'll make sure that I put the links in the show notes so that people can listen, and I look forward to checking out all this. I've had a couple of business lunches at Cellar River Inn that like clicked in my brain at one point during this time, but that was my other life and much more like buttoned up and stuffy. But yeah, so again, thank you so much for
my pleasure
doing this with us today. And again, I'll put the links in the show notes with the greetingsfromthegarden.com, which is the website for the show. This has been Greetings from the Garden State. I'm Mike Cam. We were here with Jamie Knott. Thank you again for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Peace.